No, and I think I attribute that to my parents. You know, my mom seemed to always have a smile on her face. My dad always being the hard worker, whether it was working at the railroad all day and then coming home and showering up and then going and working at the Marriott Hotel.
I really like how every time a door was closing for you, instead of you saying a door was closing for me, you say an opportunity was opening.
Yeah, Carhartt, but whatever gear we had
Mm-hmm.
to stay warm. And in the summertime, shorts and sweaty and dirty. And I see people coming in and out of the office in suits or shirt and ties, and I would ask myself, how is it that they have jobs in there and the air conditioning and we're out here?
Right.
So I guess that was my first experience in kind of doing my own networking when I didn't even know I was networking. You have a chance to work in a call center setting where you're doing customer service. That's such a great way to lay a foundation of learning how to. I'm proud to say that this past July, we just completed our 5th year anniversary. Honestly, say with an open heart that yes, I love insurance and financial services, and it's
That'll take care of you and you'll be in good hands. Like the neighbor Juanito's there.
yeah.
Hi, I'm Velia. Welcome back to my podcast. Today I am excited because I have a very special guest with us this afternoon. I have someone here who I've known for quite a while. I've known him a little bit on a personal level and more on a professional level. We previously worked together at my day job, which is with the TV station. And so today I'm excited because he's someone that is very involved in our community, someone who I admire and respect a lot. And so it's with great pleasure that I invite and introduce you all to meet Juan Ramirez. Welcome, Juan.
Thank you, Velia. I appreciate the invitation and I appreciate the kind words in the introduction.
No problem. You know, I've known you for several years. We worked together before. We actually started working together at the TV station back in mid 2006, 2007, right before the housing market crash happened. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know this, but Juan used to be the sales manager at Univision.
Whoa, you went down deep, huh?
Yeah, and that's how we met.
You're right. Yeah. Well,
we have a lot of personal connections. We went to the same high school.
Yes.
You were an upperclassman when I was a freshman. I think you were more like in the grade of my older sisters, Marisa and Velia.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure a lot of people watching today will recognize you because you know so many people and you're such a likable person. You get along with everyone. And so, I'm not saying this just because you're here on the podcast, but ever since we worked together, I knew you were a person that had good values. You were a hardworking person. You were always a family man. Someone admirable because I used to be impressed on how you were committed to your work. You were very dedicated, very focused, very professional. You always had the right words to say. And at the same time, you found the time to balance home life. You were a very loving father, very loving husband. You were always putting your family like a priority. And those are not common traits. Those are not common traits that you see in a lot of men, at least not in those days. I know things have evolved. So I think that made me respect you more, knowing that you were that type of person, that you were proud to say you were, a Christian Catholic man.
Yes.
And so I've known throughout the years you've always kind of cared for your family as well.
Yeah.
You've always kind of been there for your family in their moments of need. And so it's an honor for me for you to have you here as my guest today, because I know you're a very busy man, have a lot on your plate. And so the fact that you took a little bit of time out of your day to be here with me, I really appreciate it.
No, I mean, that's quite a bit, Velia. Pass me the tissue, please. No, the reality is some of the things that you've said about me, that you just used those kind of words to describe me. I don't think, I take it all with an open heart and I receive it. So thank you very much. I think I attribute who I am today, realistically, I attribute those characteristics to my parents, seeing them together the number of years when they were here. And, but in addition to my parents, I think one thing that someone said this to me early in my career, you will be the sum of essentially the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most. And although I wasn't always in a corporate setting or in a business setting, I think I attribute that to my friends and business colleagues who I evolved to be into this person that I am today. And, I try real hard, even today as a dad, to pass that down to my children as they're becoming young men. I have 3 boys, and we'll talk more about them, I'm sure, here momentarily. But I try to pass that along to them as well, so that they can someday reflect on themselves and hopefully become the young men that we all aspire our children, daughters daughters and boys to become. So.
And I'm sure they will. You set a great example for them, so I know that you'll be proud of the man they'll turn out to be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, Juan, like I mentioned to you earlier, this podcast is to kind of help motivate others. We all have journeys in our lives. For some of us, it's a little bit easier than others, but no matter what, for us to reach a certain level of professional success, we have to start from somewhere, right?
Sure.
Nobody's born with all the knowledge. Nobody's born with success from day one, unless you're born into like a very rich family, which for us, that wasn't the case, right?
Yeah.
So I would love to share your story, because throughout, like I said, I know you've had a lot of personal challenges, and yet you haven't let that deter you from pursuing your goals.
Yeah.
And so, just tell us a little bit about who is Juan. Let's start out with your background, and then we'll go and talk more a little bit about your business.
Sure. Well, thank you. I was born in Kansas City, Kansas, so I'm a Wyandotte. I'm a dot boy.
A dot boy.
And, my father migrated here from Mexico, I want to say it was like in 67. And my tios had come prior to him and established roots already in an area of Wyandotte County that we more commonly known as the Argentine community or area. And
you can stay where you're at, push the
sure. And so, however, we found ourselves in different areas of Wyandotte County. So we spent some time even in what people refer to as the central area, over on Central Avenue, as a young toddler, I guess you would say, because I think I remember going to kindergarten, preschool and kindergarten out that way, but then finding our way back into the Argentine area. But so really just kind of sharing the fact that, I was born and raised in the Kansas City, Kansas area. I've seen it evolve quite a bit. And I'm proud to say that I'm from the Argentine area because, when we were first established there and growing up, it doesn't look today the way it used to look then.
Right.
And so, and I'll speak to that in terms of like what my classroom setting looked like in elementary school and in middle school and then in high school. And but as I was sharing earlier, my father migrated here from Mexico in 67 and met my mom, who was born and raised here. And she was from the Armadale. My father and my mom both came from a larger family. So they had a house full of siblings and multi-generational,
Right.
which we're all pretty familiar with. So grandparents and parents and then all your siblings trying to cram into one house. But it certainly speaks to how people were raised during those times and who, from a caring standpoint, I guess you would say, how that was passed down to myself. I attribute my sensitivity side or my sensitive side to my mom, if you will, and then probably the more what do you want to say, the ability to have a strong will and stand my ground. I attribute that to my father, I guess. But no, I went to school in the Argentine area. Was raised in a Catholic household, and so went to Catholic middle school. Did a couple of years of grade school as well, but middle school, and then found myself having to choose between continuing my education at the Catholic high school or to transition and experience something different. And I took the path of going to public school at Harmon High School. And real pleased with that choice because I was able to. I just seen a lot of doors open up for me in terms of relationships, friendships, um, in a very much more diverse setting, if you will, than what I was accustomed to in grade school and middle school. Um, and I think most of the individuals that I went to grade school and middle school at the Catholic level, or excuse me, Catholic school level, was individuals that I also saw on the weekends because our parents either worked together, but we all went to like the same Catholic church on Sundays as well. So then that meant we all oftentimes found ourselves at each other's houses or at picnics, just being together quite often. And, again, I think early on in the introduction, how I mentioned, I'm a strong believer that a person will become the five people or the sum of people that they surround themselves with or are around most of their lives. First group of people growing up, both in the school setting, but also in more of a family surrounding community, helped me become who I am today. Come from a very blue collar working class community, and what else could I say about that? I mean, it was a great upbringing. Got to experience quite a bit. Traveled, we have family in California, so we found ourselves either spending the summers in California or traveling back to Mexico to be with my dad's extended family down there as well.
Awesome. So let me ask you this: when you were going to a Catholic school, because I know I've heard this a lot about previous generations or earlier years, decades, was it frowned upon to speak Spanish in school?
Ooh. That's an interesting question. It takes me back to a time when I remember a conversation I had with my mom. She grew up, of course, in the 60s era where, racial tensions were pretty high. And I remember a time when she shared with me that my abuelos didn't really encourage them, or at least strongly encourage them to be speaking Spanish in the public setting. Although they spoke it at home and they understood it as my mom interacted with her abuelos, my great grandparents. But as far as how that applied to me growing up, I wouldn't say that we weren't encouraged not to. In fact, when we were at home, my dad would always say, talk to me back in Spanish. Habla conmigo en español. And my mom, we would be like having a conversation in English with my mom and at the same time talking to my dad in Spanish. And so, but as far as in school goes, by our parents and our surrounding tios that we grew up around, it was never really imposed upon us to I guess, streamline ourselves with everyone around us in school and only speak Spanish or English. But I will say this, going to a school where about 90% of the student body was, English speaking, it made it difficult to maybe share or speak Spanish or even maybe engage with other Latinos in the classroom setting in the way that we do at home, but I found myself, and I'm sure a lot of the other Latino students that I grew up with in the classroom setting, found myself kind of, I don't want to say for any reason other than just wanting to be a part of everyone in the classroom setting, part of the classroom community.
Right.
So one tends to gravitate and adopt certain mannerisms, certain ways of interacting with the other students, because you want to be invited as well to the birthday parties. Right. You want to be invited to go hang out at the skating parties, because those were the two big things in grade and middle school, And so, don't get me wrong, we had plenty of birthday parties with my cousins because we have a big family. So, but nonetheless, no, we were never really encouraged or pushed in that direction.
Okay. And the reason I asked was because I know when we first started working together, your Spanish was not like,
oh yeah,
you didn't really speak Spanish, and now over the years,
yes,
you've kind of
yes,
improved your Spanish and
oh
kind
my
of made it a
gosh,
personal effort. And I know, speaking with other people who grew up here in Kansas City, like on the west side, that they've been
yeah,
here for many generations, they've talked about how they were like, it was frowned upon at school, especially the Catholic schools. The nuns would hit them with
wow,
rulers if they
yeah,
spoke Spanish. And
interesting,
so I
yeah.
was just kind of wondering if you not picking up Spanish was because of that, but that's okay. I was just curious. It was just
No,
curious.
you know what? That's great. That's great that you would bring that up because, again, um, it's interesting to see how other people observe, one's personality or how they interact. But you're absolutely right. Again, as I described earlier, being at home, talking English to my mom and Spanish to my dad,
Mhm.
and when we'd be at family gatherings with my
Mhm.
mom's side of the family,
Mhm.
it was always in English speaking
Mhm.
setting, and then on my dad's, it was always in Spanish.
Spanish, yeah.
With all my tios and my abuelos, and but as I started growing up, yeah, we didn't speak much Spanish whatsoever in school, but not even really with the friends that I was hanging around with or my cousins. Um, and so therefore we just found ourselves always speaking English, and I think that's obviously a reason why perhaps my Spanish wasn't the best. And then I will say very, very openly, just like you've shared your observation of me, it wasn't until I started working at Univision that I kind of was thrown into the deep end, if you will. When they say when you have to learn something, they throw you into the deep end of the pool. When you have to learn to swim, you just start swimming for your life. So at Univision, it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
Because I was coming in in a sales capacity, as an account executive, and after having been at Verizon Wireless for a number of years, I was like gung-ho about trying to build something within our community, especially a TV station in which I grew up on, again, more so with my dad's side of the family. But yeah, if I wanted to be, if I wanted to elevate myself in that sales setting with Univision, I knew that I was going to have to find a way to dust off my Spanish speaking skills. But I'm thankful that we were surrounded by a very diverse team. Yourself, Arturo Martinez. Who else can I throw out there? That was
Maria Haynes.
Maria Haynes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Claudia.
Yes. Okay. So all we were a solid team. I mean, we supported one another in a lot of different ways. But since we're talking about that, let me just thank you formally for being one to inspire me and to kind of teach me and not make me feel like, oh, there's another one. He doesn't know, he's Mexican, but he doesn't speak Spanish. No, instead, you guys would bring me under your wing, so to speak, and teach me, oh, this is how you should be saying this, or this is how. And then with the evolution of technology, access to Google Translator now, I mean, forget about it, Who isn't going to be able to speak Spanish nowadays? But no, absolutely, I attribute my capabilities today in the Spanish-speaking space to the start of my career at Univision, and then from there on, it's just evolved.
Yeah, and you're right. I think we had a good mix of a team there, because I remember I would also ask for help for typing in Spanish, writing in Spanish, how to pronounce things in Spanish properly, because my professional Spanish was not there. One thing is the Spanish you speak at home, and another thing is professional Spanish. And so I remember also, we would help each other out. Like I would help Arturo type his emails in English, and I would ask them, hey, how do I spell this in Spanish? So yeah, it's important to have a team where you guys understand each other's weaknesses. And even till this day, I think our team kind of helps foster that same environment. So it's important that everybody's supportive, But I'm glad to hear that your Spanish has improved a lot. Maybe we should switch this to Spanish.
Well, or we can just do a Spanish segment episode.
Okay. So, well, let's start talking a little bit more about your professional career.
Okay.
Earlier you mentioned that you worked at Verizon. So tell us how you ended up at Verizon. Let's go back a little bit. So we talked about your high school.
Sure.
So now let's talk about your formal preparation or college to go to Verizon.
Thank you. I graduated from Harmon High School, and at that time, I knew I wanted to continue my education. So the path led me to Kansas Community College, where I spent probably a good year and a half going to school and working like most people. Even then, we had to work to put ourselves through school. Um, and but so I'll admit this: my education, I kind of went the long route, so to speak, to end up with my bachelor's degree in science and management. I think over a 10-year span of going to school, taking a long break, and then re-entering college later in life when I was married with children to finish what I had started years before. But nonetheless, college. And while I was in college, I was working in retail in Indian Springs Mall. Most people are familiar from Wyandotte County, of course. That was the place to be back then. But I found myself starting my career like most people. I remember one of my first jobs that I received or obtained while I was in Kansas City, Kansas Community College was through a job fair on site. And it was for a freight company there in Armadale. And I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be great. It was a really good paying hourly wage. But I didn't think about the elements, the other elements, having to work in the heat, the hottest days of summer, unloading freight in a truck, trailer. And then, of course, in the winter months, experience the exact opposite, freezing cold temps. But I remember distinctly always wanting to do something different, but within the same company, because I would see people coming in and out of the office. I'm over there, and back then we didn't have Carhartt, but whatever gear we had to stay warm. And in the summertime, shorts and sweaty and dirty. And I see people coming in and out of the office in suits or shirt and ties, and I would ask myself, how is it that they have jobs in there and the air conditioning and we're out here?
Right.
So I guess that was my first experience in kind of doing my own networking when I didn't even know I was networking. But I found myself in the break room talking to people as they would be coming in and out, and just started asking questions. And later on, my first chance to post for a job as a dispatcher, which was an office job, came up. And, it was because of the relationships I was building internally, even though they were just conversations and rapport building with people in the office. I was able to, I guess looking back now, network, if you will, my way into being able to be in a position in an office and take myself out of it. So that was kind of my first aha moment where I saw, you know what, if you want to better yourself in whatever you're doing, network with people in your surrounding community or in the place of work, wherever you're at, and see who is willing to kind of mentor you, if you will. But nonetheless, that was kind of my first job that really kind of opened my eyes about how things work. Right.
That there's more out there. You can have a better job, that you're not suffering in the heat and the cold. You can be in a nice warm office.
Exactly. So now, from Kansas City Community College, I transferred to Johnson County Community College, and during that time of school, I was looking for a different job, and I found my first job in a call center setting. And I'll share this with you. I think it's very important if you have a chance to work in a call center setting, whether in today's world, of course, a lot of it's remote.
Right.
But if you have a chance to work in a call center setting where you're doing customer service, that's such a great way to lay a foundation of learning how to interact with others, how to problem solve, build a higher level of critical thinking. But yeah, I found my way into my first job in the call center. And from there, again, because of networking, a friend of mine who left this call center job went to work for a headhunter firm. We used to call them headhunters, but they are
like
recruitment agents. And he recruited me away to go work for a company that I didn't know about back then called Cellular One.
Okay.
And so I found my way there. Started in entry-level customer service, but worked my way up into management. During that same time frame, I had decided to go back to school because during that window of time, and we're talking several years, probably 4 or 5 years, I took a break from school and got married and started having a family. And But I found my way into this job with a company called Cellular One, and during that era of time, 96 to 2003, this thing that was occurring in the technology world space of cellular phone use, and that was digital networks were being implemented everywhere. And so, when they say sometimes you find yourself at the right place at the right time, for me that occurred in my tenure there at that company, because Cellular One, all of the wireless industry at that time, they were all consolidating. And so you were taking all of these companies, hundreds nationally, and they were forming these major groups. And so that's where Verizon Wireless came about. Okay. And I'm not trying to name drop here or anything for branding purposes or anything, but it's really important to realize that when people see value in you, and in this case, recruit you away for a better opportunity, it's important to think things through and ask yourself, can this be used as a stepping stone for me, long term in my career? For me, it was. Right. And I really didn't see it that clearly at that time, but it surely was. I was there almost 9 years. And so started entry level, worked my way up into operations management. Oh, wow. And spent about 4.5 years in that role. And then I'll remember this distinctly. Just like all things in the corporate setting and the way business evolves, we were in a position where they were going to close down our operations center. Oh, and so that meant for me, I was going to be without a job. Oh, wow. Yeah. So as one of the operations managers, we were brought in and they said, hey, this is what's going to happen. We're going to roll this out to the entire floor. And we had over 300 people in this operations center. And so for me, I kind of, after the shock of, oh my gosh, what I know today is going to go away, evolved into, oh my gosh, this is going to open up other opportunities for me. Because at that time, I was already playing with the idea of, I want to go into sales, because I had a handful of friends that were in telesales and also in business and B2B sales. Right. And so I saw that they, again, were coming into the office all suited up, and they were in and out, very flexible schedules, out there networking and taking clients, visiting clients, all this other stuff that I was not familiar with, but it looked cool. Oh, yeah.
It's better than what you were doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, again, because of internal networking, I found my way up to the president's office. And because, when you have some rapport with people in that setting, it's easier to come in and have conversations very openly. And so I did a hard ask during that time. I said, hey, I've put a lot of time into this company. I feel like I've, brought a lot of value. And don't get me wrong, it was either take a severance package or you could move and relocate. And at that time it was, do you want to relocate to Schaumburg, Illinois, which is kind of a suburban city outside of Chicago, or to St. Louis. And either one of those to me at the time when I was married sounded appealing. Right. And so I, did some internal networking and asked for an interview in the business department, business sales. And right then and there, phone was picked up by then the president and called the sales director in a different city and lined up an interview for me. And and needless to say, I obtained the job, going through that process. But that was my first sales job in a corporate setting where I was in B2B sales. And I'll tell you that for me was the best thing that could have happened to me, because it helped me realize that I can create a lifestyle for myself and my family based on my own efforts. And don't get me wrong, in the corporate business setting, you have people saying, this is what we need you to do. Right. And I'll speak to the difference between being in a setting working for someone and then being in business for yourself and how I feel today. But nonetheless, it was a great experience. And after 3.5 years in that role, tapped on the shoulder, again, just from networking with people at the chamber, and opportunities arose, and I found my way over to Univision to help launch the first Kansas City TV station in Spanish here.
Wow. So awesome. Well, good thing you ended up at Univision. Well, going back a little bit, just to kind of emphasize on going from like a salary job to
Oh,
a
sure.
sales, I'm guessing you had more like of a commission structure.
Hmm.
The nice thing about it, I think, is when you have that opportunity to sell from B2B
Hmm.
before you go into business,
Yes.
I think you build confidence to know that you can generate a certain amount of revenue with all the training you get from the sales side.
Hmm.
So that when you open your business, you're like, I already know what it takes to build a book of business. And if I generated this much revenue for this company, I feel confident I can generate this much for
Yes.
myself. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think sales jobs are very, very important.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, strong foundation in customer service.
Mhm.
And then I think that's where a person will identify with, is this going to be what I want to do the rest of my life in some form, shape or form,
Mhm.
or do I want to pursue other things where there might be a larger earning potential? And for me, that's what the case was for me. But I'll tell you, worked in Univision, not only did it help me become better with Spanish speaking skills, but it helped me really truly understand what it takes to market
Mhm.
yourself, your business, and how to create different ways to generate awareness about what product or service you're offering in your business. And I did that in meeting with business owners at that time and asking them what were some of the things that they were hoping to accomplish in that given time. And at Univision we had access to offer access to different multimedia platforms, and so we're talking about TV station is our bread and butter,
Right.
but with the relationships we had with the Spanish and bilingual newspapers and the Spanish speaking radio, and then at that time evolving with the use of websites and the internet. So for me, that was very, very key in helping me, I guess, again, just another learning platform.
Yeah, and it was evolution because if you think about it back then and now, back then we used to have to put everything on DVDs. Do you remember?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And now, before we used to produce the commercials, we'd have to have a DVD, go deliver it to the client, show it to them. Yeah. Then come back with a DVD, tell production about the changes, then go back out and
yes, very time consuming.
Yeah, and now we just send them a link to their YouTube commercial
in
seconds. So it's evolved, and that's when barely MySpace was starting out. Do you remember?
Yes.
We didn't even have Facebook back then.
No.
So we had a lot of challenges, and nowadays we have a lot of technology that makes that job easy.
I would agree, and speaking in terms of career paths and how things evolved to where I'm at today. It was during the downfall of the housing market in 2008 that kind of opened another door for me. So I mentioned at Verizon how I was being told I'm either have to move or I'm going to be laid off, and for me, I saw that as an opportunity. Once again, circling back to moving ahead to my time at Univision, after almost 4 years in the market, plummeting in the housing market. Because of relationships that I had established with people in the corporate setting, with nonetheless a client of mine that was advertising to Univision at the time, a company by the name of State Farm, that kind of opened the door for me during that time when most people were worried about what's going to happen to my job, my income. And for me, it was more about, okay, what can I do, to prepare myself for that next step into what I want to be.
Right.
And so some doors opened up for me. And I'm very thankful to a few individuals at State Farm who helped guide me through that process. Okay. And essentially that's like another level of education that I received, because even though I was a consumer of a product from State Farm, I didn't really truly understand, how can you build a career, an income to support your family offering this. And so
I really like how every time a door was closing for you, instead of you saying a door was closing for me, you say an opportunity was opening.
Yes.
You saw everything as a new opportunity. And it's kind of like through life, you have to understand that when things are being taken from you, it's for your own good, because there's more growth that comes after.
Yeah,
that
I will
change.
say that for sure. I'm glad that you're bringing that to out in the open. It's so true. It can be very easy for one to just kind of fall deep into their chair and sulk about it, and but not for me. I don't know, and I think I attribute that to my parents. My mom seemed to always have a smile on her face. My dad always being the hard worker, whether it was working at the railroad all day and then coming home and showering up and then going and working at the Marriott Hotel because there's a banquet on Friday night, and being a server at a banquet.
Right.
So for me, it was always, about what can come of this and how can we improve the situation. But your question early on, I'm kind of getting to the answer, is how did I come to be where I'm at today in business for myself? And so the opportunity at State Farm allowed me to learn the business inside and out. It allowed me to build a lot of different relationships. But taking the experiences that I mentioned before in customer service, in operations management, in B2B sales, and then learning how to market a business, using multi platforms of media to grow a business. All of those kind of came like one day, just kind of like, wow, okay, all of my experience is what's helping me feel like I can enter this door that's just open with confidence, And so, I'd love to say that everything was happily ever after, once that happened, because as we've talked already, I'm currently in the insurance space right now still, but I'm not with State Farm, After almost 6+ years there with the company, I made a decision to take a step back. I think everyone experiences perhaps some turbulent times in life, these challenges, and for me at that time, that was when it was occurring. And so I found myself with a need of having to step away from, at that time, I evolved into being an agency owner. And so I found myself having to step away from that, and found myself in my first role in the financial space, working for a bank by the name of Arvest.
That's true. You did work at Arvest.
So,
yeah.
For me, it was about finding a way to have some flexibility in my life, provide for my kids, and demonstrate that I could be a good father, even unmarried, single father at that time. That's kind of the turbulent time that I was experiencing.
Right.
And for me, I found an opportunity at Arvest Bank as a small business lender. And so once again, transitioning all the skill sets that I had learned from prior jobs
and contacts
into that role really allowed me to hit the ground running. So, life goes on, or life continues, so to speak. And so once again, here I am learning a little bit more about financial services, but more so pertaining to the banking, if you will. And so spent about almost 4 years. So 3 years as a small business lender, 1 year as a mortgage lender. And within that 4-year window of time, though, I always knew, I'll pause right here real quick and I'll back up. When I had left my agency at State Farm and went into Arvest Bank, at that time I was just a matter of just trying to provide some stability for myself and my kids. And I found myself realizing that even though this was a great opportunity, it wasn't the opportunity that I wanted to find myself in for the rest of my working career and the rest of my life. Right. And so probably a year into my role there, maybe 2 years in, I realized that my passion, my calling truly was in the insurance and financial services space combined. And so I started just formulating a plan, not necessarily just to exit from where I was at, but how can I land on my feet when it was an okay time to leave, the opportunity at that time for me. And so right around the 4-year mark is when I made the decision to take the leap of faith once again and go into business for myself. I had spent the last 2 years kind of building myself up, so to speak, producing evening and weekends with insurance. And I found myself, in a position where it was time to take a leap of faith and pursue that opportunity that I wanted to finally create for myself and my family for what I would consider to be my final stop in my working career, and that is to be in business for myself.
Awesome.
And so that's why finally I'll share this with you and the audience that I'm proud to say that this past July, we just completed our 5th year anniversary of being in business as Vista Insurance.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Bravo. Congratulations.
So pretty exciting to be able to sit here and share that.
Awesome. So it's been 5 years already since you said
5.5 years. So we're pursuing our 6th year mark. So, and a lot has changed in the insurance and financial service space since the time I first got in. So technically, I share with individuals that ask, I've been in this space now 17 plus years because I've never let my licenses lapse. I've always stayed in a position where I've had to maintain my working knowledge of products and services. And even though I may not have had my State Farm agency, I kid you not, people were always asking me, hey, I have this question about insurance or financial services. And, I would kindly share, I don't currently have an agency. However, I know individuals that I'm going to refer you to, and I'll make that soft introduction for you guys. Awesome. And that's kind of where the light bulb went off again after that first year of being in banking.
Like, hey, I'm sending away all this business.
Exactly. I said to myself, well, I really still do have a passion for that. And I'm referring business, which I didn't have a problem doing at that time. But then I realized, hey, there's no reason why I can't start to formulate a plan to re-enter the business at some point in the future. So here we are, Good.
So tell me, you said things have changed in the insurance and financial industry. Is it due to technology, or what are some of those changes that you have seen in the past 5.5 years?
Well, I'll tell you what, several reasons that I share that. To answer your question, the way people like to do business it has really attributed to majority of how we do business today. In the past, when I first entered the business, it was about being out in the community, networking, what I call shaking hands and kissing babies, and asking for business, and perhaps back then sending postcards out even. When people would respond to a postcard, perhaps. I'm talking years and years ago. But, I'm going to probably fast forward to the pandemic era that we experienced, in 2020. I want to say that I'm, in some way, one positive thing that came out of that is how we do business today. People appreciate handling their insurance and financial services needs. Majority of our clients today and those that are referred to us prefer to handle that either by phone, virtually communicating via email or texting. But we do a lot of Zoom calls as well. So the utilization of technology and what we experienced in 2020 with the pandemic has evolved into how we do business today. I'm not the only one that'll share that either. You'll hear that from a lot of our referral partners, whether they're real estate agents, mortgage lenders, accountants, CPAs, attorneys, people that refer business to us. When we look to connect with that referral and establish some rapport, majority of the time, the individual on the other end is saying, oh, no, I'm good. You can just text me, or you can send me an email with your questions, or yes, let's schedule a Zoom meeting, and it makes it a lot easier to do business.
More productivity, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I say. They always say, no hay mal que por bien no venga. Something good always has to come out. So that's the best thing that came out of COVID, is that we were able to evolve into a society that's more digital. That before, back in the day, if you try to redirect someone to a website, hey, go to my website, they felt like you didn't want to be bothered with them because they wanted that face-to-face in-person interaction. And now it's like, yes, please send me the link, because now they realize, hey, I can do this in 10 minutes. I don't have to miss work. I can do it at night at home from my bed, versus having to take time off of work, having to drive, take 3 hours of my day just to go sign a paperwork. And now digital signatures are just as acceptable. We don't have to keep like piles and piles of files with, because before it had to be the original signature. It couldn't be a copy or it wasn't valid. So yeah, I think it's great. It helps us save trees. So that's wonderful that, and like you said, it makes you more productive, because you don't have to spend that time driving to see clients, spend 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back, plus the time you're there. You get on a quick 15-minute, 20-minute Zoom meeting. I'll send you a quick email and you're done.
Absolutely. And, not just for me, as an individual, I'm the agency principal, which means on paper, I'm responsible for everything that happens at Vista Insurance. But, we're a team of 4 individuals, so I've grown my agency into a team of 4 of us. Wow. So we're all licensed professionals. And again, just like how we do business interactively with a client today has changed. The same thing goes with how you can build a team. There are only 2 of us. If you walk into my office in Overland Park, off Simonson Parkway near Metcalf.
I'll send you the bill later.
2 of our producing agents work virtually, in Missouri and in Texas. And then, of course, we're here in Kansas. And so, we're always looking to grow, not just today, but into the future as well. Like I said, this is my final stop. I have no intentions of going anywhere else. If anything, I'm constantly looking for ways on how can we add more value to our client relationships. And then how can we grow our business? And then how can we grow our team? I'm proud to say my son, Jonas, he passed his property and casualty exam recently. Oh, wow. And he just obtained his property and casualty license. So
good for him. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll pass it along. Emil, you'll probably see this. So, like most parents, I think when we build a business, we do it so that we can provide a good life for our family and ourselves, right?
No legacy.
And I've talked to my kids at dinner and just in conversations. Okay, so who's going to step up, later in life and take over this empire that I'm building for us, And so it's funny because my youngest son, Noah, he's the youngest, and I can reflect back a couple of years. Today he's 14, but a couple of years back where he would be like, Dad, I'll do it. I'll take it over someday, And because I'll admit, when you're speaking to an individual and you talk about insurance and financial services, it's not as glitzy and glamorous as, I was at Verizon Wireless and I had all the latest in technology pieces and all the software solutions and then being in Univision where you had access to all the galas and all the parties and all the concerts. And I mean, that was pretty glamorous, But now it's just insurance and financial services, but we make it fun. And the way we do business and how we bring on and onboard new clients, it might have all shifted to a virtual space or online access points, but the relationships are still there. So I look for ways to get in front of my clients still. Invite them to come out to the office, or, hey, I could be as close to you as your kitchen table. Just have me out one day and I'll visit with you and your husband and whoever, we need to talk about whatever. But again, like you mentioned earlier, networking also allows me to stay in front of people. And so it's not all about just staying behind the computer monitor. And
there's the pluses to it. It makes you more efficient. But you're right. It's important to still have that.
Yes.
In-person interaction.
Absolutely. So
what is it that you think has attributed to your success in being able to have a agency that's now 5 years and a half going strong?
Wow, how much time do we have? Because
as much time as you want. It's 12:20 if you want.
Okay, I'll just recap once again that my past working experiences, whether it was in a call center doing customer service or in operations management, learning how to work with other individuals and supervise and mentor and coach, to being in my first job in sales, learning what it takes to sell something. It's not about forcing something onto someone so that you can get a paycheck. It's about listening and understanding someone's needs. And then do you have a solution or a product that will meet that need for that client?
So would you say that you're truly passionate about insurance, that you really find value in helping your community with insurance services?
My goodness. I can honestly say with an open heart that yes, I love insurance and financial services. And it's because the 17 years that I've been in here, a lot of times people will be like, man, I'm paying for something that I'll never use, or they feel like they'll never use it, or I've never had a claim, and that's something that some people pride themselves on. But I can tell you right now the number of times that I've been on the opposite side of that conversation where they've had a claim and didn't understand what their rights were, how to fulfill a claim, or how to counter an offer from an insurance company. I want to make sure that at the end of the day, the client receives and is made whole for their loss. But so to answer your question about passion, in regards to that, usually it pertains to like the home and auto space. But people pride themselves in the home that they work hard to own, and so when there's a major claim on a home, we want to make sure that they feel good about what they've been paying for and help them see through their situation in the claims process. But I will tell you this, where I get a lot more satisfaction is when I get to sit down with someone and understand what their needs are in terms of health insurance, life insurance, creative retirement planning, all those things that I've learned over the years. And it's a matter of just sharing information with individuals based on what I've heard them say their needs are. But, earlier you asked the question, what would I attribute my success in going on more than 5 years in my business for myself at Vista Insurance? And that is my work experience that I described earlier, but also two other things. One being able to surround myself with a team of people that know more than I do in some areas. Yeah, because, it's real easy as a business owner to focus on the production side of your business. And I don't care if you're in a trades field where your production is based on how many houses you paint, how many homes you frame, how many sheetrock walls you put up, or roofs you put on, or whatever your product is, or solution or service. But for me, it's being able to identify what's into, or building a team of people that can help you on things that you don't know so much about. For me, I'll admit openly, it's I don't like getting focused on things like having to data enter my QuickBooks, having to worry about processing payroll for the team. I outsource that to someone, and I'm willing to pay for it, because I realize that my time is more valuable in this other seat versus having to focus on entering information like that.
So you're not focused on micromanaging. You have a team of trusted professionals.
Exactly. And so I pass that along to anyone listening to it, is that as a business owner, to free yourself up. And you hear this a lot, work on your business, not in your business, so that you can grow at the pace that you want to challenge yourself to grow at. So the second thing, though, that I attribute of our continued success is being very open to exploring other ways of growing my business. And I'm not saying by adding more people. Sure, I would like to add more agents to my team. But no, more importantly, if you identify a need in the community or from your client base, and you don't currently offer that product or solution, find a way to bring it to the table for them. Because if it's one person or one family that has a need, you rest assured there are other families in the surrounding area or in your community that also have that need. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. And one thing I wanted to go back to is how you mentioned the importance of really providing value to your clients and giving them all the information they need to make sure they have the proper coverage.
Hmm.
Because, you know, our community is very much about, I want to save money. So give me the cheapest policy that you have. And they're happy paying $100 less, but then when it comes time to that claim, they're mad at you
Yes.
because they didn't get fully covered, but you're like, hey, you didn't want to pay the extra $100. So it's important to have an agent who's able to educate them on that. Like, look, I know you want to save $100 now,
Sure.
but in the long run, this is what your coverage is. So if you save this money, you're going to lose on this. So, you know, I see it happen too often where people want to save money and it ends up costing them more. Lo barato sale caro, how we say, you know. So how do you work with your clients on that? Like, do you have those scenarios where you make sure you focus on really explaining it to them on why it's important for them to make that proper investment?
Yes, good question. For us, it begins with understanding what's got them shopping. Because usually when someone is talking to us for the first time, they're either referred to us because they're buying a home and they've never had home insurance, or the rates are going up because our current state of our industry is that we refer to it as we're experiencing a hard market right now. We'll come back to that later. But for us, it's to understand what has this individual that I'm talking to right now shopping for what type of insurance. And so they're going to be very open. 99% of the time, it's because my rate, if they're an existing insurance customer of somewhere else. And then, you know, by conversation, we dive deep into understanding what about the rate is concerning you? What's caused your rate to go up recently? Let's explore that conversationally. Have there been any tickets or accidents? What are your current coverages? It surprises me how often when I ask that question, an individual doesn't understand really what coverages they have. I'm a firm believer of being properly covered. And I'm not saying, a lot of people will say the phrase full coverage, but I'll tell you, in a textbook, when you're getting licensed, it's nowhere in there. The phrase fully covered means that you have protection for the individuals on that side of your car, so to speak, and then the individuals inside the car with you as you're driving. So people will refer to that oftentimes as fully covered, meaning if I hit someone, it's going to repair their car and it's going to repair my car, and we're going to be covered for bodily injuries. Okay, so but it's really bodily injury, property damage, comprehensive, and collision coverages. All of those four things oftentimes are referred to as the phrase full coverage. But oftentimes when we're talking with individuals, I find that they have a state minimum entry level plan. And real quickly, you know, we dive in. What was it that you based your decision on purchasing this level of coverage in the past? A lot of times they'll say, I don't know. I never knew it was just the state minimum, and I didn't know what the repercussions of having just state minimum coverage could look like. So I paint a picture for them. Realistically, you know, you can go outside today, and almost every vehicle out there that's new is going to be $25,000 or more, right?
Right.
So imagine you or me, you know, hitting a car, and the damages are beyond a $25,000 minimum limit for repair.
Especially over here in Overland Park.
Yes.
I'm always like, I'm not going to hit that. I'm not going to hit that.
Well, the fact is, you know, once your insurance pays the amount that they're committed to pay, you know, then you can be taken, to court. And, you know, people will say, what does it matter? I don't have anything anyways. It does matter because they can garnish your wages, you know, and you know, no one wants to be held, you know, go to work for 40 hours a week and then know that some of their paycheck is going to this family because of a decision that they made that they wanted to, you know, not explore higher filters. But yeah, so we focus a lot on education in the beginning, and because I don't ever want to be in a position where an individual says, why am I not covered? So our records will indicate what you chose to purchase. And then, of course, your monthly payment, when you make it, you're acknowledging that you are accepting of the policy that you're paying for. At the end of the day, that's the consumer's responsibility as well. So, but no, we take a strong approach into making sure we're identifying what their needs are, understanding why they only want a certain level of coverages, and then showing them the value of, you mentioned $100 difference, but that $100 may be over a 6-month period of time, So really, realistically, to get a next level of coverage with comp and collision, you probably are only looking at maybe $10 to $25 a month difference, But nonetheless, we invite anyone, anytime to ask that question. We'd be glad to explore that possibility of properly insuring someone. So
wonderful. Okay, so now let's go back to the hard market. You said we're currently experiencing a hard market. What does that mean?
Oh my gosh. Well, let me back up some. We talked earlier about what we experienced in 2020 with the pandemic. So during that time, people just weren't driving as much, right? Because a lot of the workforce was moved to work from home remotely. And so what that meant was there were fewer people on the roads driving. Okay. In addition to that, believe it or not, more people were at home more of the time. And if you might recall during that time, what a hot topic was. People were renovating their homes. They were improving them. They were putting a lot of love and money into their homes. And so, perhaps it lessened, if you will, the frequency of claims, for one, because you're home more. Two, you're identifying something that needs to be maintained. So a maintenance opportunity that you can just fix versus wait and see until you have a drip or stain on your ceiling, and now I got to file a claim. No, people were taking a more proactive approach to maintaining their homes, which also I'm sure attributed to the lessening of number of claims on homes as well. Now, all that being said, fast forward to 2021, and maybe even 2022, where everyone was then being called to come back to the office and work.
And everybody forgot how to drive.
Exactly. And people were forgetful of, it's important not to be holding your phone while you're driving, because so what's causing this hard market that we're in today is a number of things. I'll just sum this up real quick. Inflation, it's no secret. We've been experiencing it the last year and a half, 2 years. We keep hearing in the news and from the politicians that we're in a recession or approaching a recession. But inflation, of course, is a driving factor. So inflation also affects the cost of repairing these cars that are in accidents from distracted drivers. More of that's happening with the higher frequency. So higher part cost, higher labor cost on auto repairs. And then the same thing applies to homes. Remember when the lumber pricing shot up?
Yes.
Okay. And with that also, well, if the lumber's going to go up, naturally, paint has to go up. Sheetrock has to go up. Labor, of course, who's going to put it all in? Labor's got to go up too, right?
Right.
So all of those things are attributing factors to why insurance companies are now having to take rate increases. And it's not an easy thing to do. They have to go through the state departments in each state and request, and they have to state the reasons, etc. And so there's a lot of behind the scenes things that occur. It's not just because we hit a button, and the rate's going to jump up 20%. But it's because of those factors.
And then you add to the mix everybody that had the Hyundai cars that were getting stolen.
That's just a whole nother.
And then something happened in California, which is a whole different story, but with all the fires. So I know a lot of things went into play that kind of caused insurance to go up.
Again, hard market. I've only begun to tell you a couple of things so far. So inflation cost, home and auto, frequency of claims, the natural disasters that we have experienced over the years across the country. Yeah, you mentioned California, but it's also happened, the hurricanes over in Florida or in the Gulf area. So all of those attribute to...
and then on Texas with all those winter storms, remember plumbing that got frozen?
Yes. I mean, that's something that Texas wasn't familiar with, those hard freezes. And so those water pipes will freeze, and then when they start to thaw out, they'll burst, and then that causes all the water damage. Again, there's an increase in number of claims. Natural disasters cause that. Okay, so it's just a number of things. And so what we were used to seeing perhaps on an average home of $250,000, let's say, if that's what it costs to buy a house. And we're talking, 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, suburban kind of area, 250,000 for the house. Your insurance might have been about $1,200 to $1,500 a year. Well, that same house today, you need to be expecting that you're going to be looking at more like $2,000 to $2,800.
Oh, wow.
Depending on the number of factors. So yes, all of that I share with you and the audience to kind of just help everyone understand that the insurance industry, as it pertains to home and auto, and even commercial building space, we're seeing an increase in costs, but it's so that the insurance industry can remain solvent. People are paying hard-earned money every month for insurance premiums. You want these insurance companies to be in business to pay your claim whenever that should happen.
Yes.
In order to do so, everybody has to put a few more centavos in the bucket and have the money in place to pay those claims when they happen.
Because insurance essentially is kind of like, I used to, went back to some stories I've heard. So for example, like us as Latinos, we have the tandas, right, where everybody puts money in a pot.
I've done that before
turns.
too.
Yeah. And so insurance essentially is kind of like everybody's putting money into this pot for like a savings, so that the day that you need it, all the money's pulled out of the pot to pay for you to replace your car and your house. So with all the claims, the pot started going dry, right? So then now we have to refill it, but it's going to cost us a little bit more because we had to pay out more than usual. And so that's why
That's a great way to describe it. I'm gonna have to use that one. I'm gonna borrow that.
I won't charge you anything.
I'm gonna borrow that for sure. And there's other things. I'll say this. Another thing that's causing it to be a hard market is in our Midwest area. The strong winds that we are in what they call the tornado alley, so to speak, from Oklahoma all the way up through Iowa, and because we get a lot of hard winds and tornadoes, and that produces hailstorms, etc. So when you have an individual who might be paying $2,000 a year for home insurance, and on average, probably within 4 to 5 years of paying that, you're talking about maybe $8,000 or so. The insurance companies having to come out of pocket for a large claim, probably between $10,000 to $20,000 to do a roof replacement on those average homes. That might be about $250,000 in cost. So once again, we're in an area where we just experience a lot of claims. So,
and then with the snow and accidents and all that kind of good stuff.
Now, if I can share one tip.
Sure.
To everyone out there listening, whether you are a consumer looking to buy a home, or if you're a realtor listing a home for your client, or if you're a buyer's agent and you take your clients out to see homes, I would encourage you all to have more awareness about the trees in the surrounding yard of the property that's being sold or purchased. Insurance companies are taking a very hard stance on not insuring homes that have overgrown trees.
Really?
And so what I'm finding is when we receive a referral from someone that's about to buy their first home, and we have to be the bearer of bad news and say, with more frequency it's happening, we're an independent brokerage, so we have access to multiple carriers, and we shop them all. But it's sad to report that a number of them will do an automatic ineligible because they have access to real-time imagery from the satellites, and they'll look down to see the trees in the area. Oh, wow. And so then I have to be the bearer of bad news and say, okay, these 4 or 5 companies did a decline because of this. These companies are still going to take it. However, they are a insurance provider that only insures homes, and so their rates tend to be a lot higher. So if we're already, focused on trying to deliver comprehensive coverage at a price point that's going to allow the deal to happen, because a number of variables when it comes to lending, right, come into play. Then we find ourselves having to educate the client and then the realtor of, you're going to need to get someone either to come back and trim those limbs that are hanging over the roof, or take the tree down entirely, if it's too close. But we're finding that to be a proactive approach the insurance industry is doing, in order not to take on these risks that are going to obviously turn into a quick claim within the first couple of years.
Right.
And so share that, with people that and then those of you in the audience, feel free to reach out to me at any point in time.
What's your number?
913-962-5100.
913-962-5100. And do you have a website?
We do. It's www.insurewithvista.com. But I will share this. We're actually going through, it's under construction, and we're adding some additional content. So I'm a little behind on that, but that's our domain. So
Okay.
I'm hoping to have this out.
What about social media handles? Do you have like Facebook?
So
Instagram?
on Facebook, you can find us on Insure with Vista.
Okay.
And if you need to reach out to me, I'm at Juan@insurewithvista.com, or you can send to our general inbox, service@insurewithvista.com. And what else would you like?
So you got phone number, address, and what states do you service?
Oh, great question. So we reside in the state of Kansas. We're located right at the corridor area of Shimerson Parkway and Metcalf. There's a quick trip on the corner, so we're about half a block going towards China Mission Kia. There's a great barbecue restaurant in the forefront of our.
It's for their opening. Then you have Alardo's.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right behind there. There's a, ground level shops and retail.
Okay. I know where they're at.
Businesses. The building that I'm in, we are recessed in the parking lot, and we're on the third floor. Just come on in the lobby, take the elevator up to the third floor, and you'll find our building there, or our door on the right hand side.
Awesome.
But yeah, we operate in the state of Kansas, Missouri, and Texas.
Okay. And you cover everything in all three states, like home, auto.
Correct. We're a full service agency. So, our first approach to doing business with clients when they refer to us or they call us is to identify what needs you have today. And then after we meet those immediate needs, then we share with them what else can we help you with, because if one person has auto insurance, they may have a need for renters or home insurance. In conversation, you might discover that they own a business. Where they work may not have a retirement plan or group benefits like life insurance or group health. And so we offer individual and family plans for all of those things.
Awesome. Life
insurance and health insurance. And so I was excited that this year was our first year aggressively pursuing and helping the community with the health insurance enrollment period. And so we because we're licensed in being able to offer health insurance and life insurance, we registered and got certified to be a producing agency for the marketplace.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was very, as an individual myself and business owner, I had experience personally of going out and researching and registering for insurance for myself and in the past for my kids. But it's one thing to do it for yourself, and it's another to be able to provide that service to someone else. And so it's very humbling to be able to show someone how they can qualify for a subsidy towards the cost of their health insurance. Most people don't know this, but even if you have a group plan through your employer, if your premium for health insurance is greater than 9% of your net take-home income, then that's a reason for you to be eligible to shop through the marketplace.
Awesome. Did not know that. Yeah. So learn something new today.
But this past, November 1st through January 15th was open enrollment period. And so you don't have to have a special event to shop on there. Everyone, regardless of your state of health, of your income, everyone is eligible. And we have access to all the major players in the market. I mean, we're talking about Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare,
Uh-huh.
Cigna, Aetna, and Better Health, Oscar, which is a newer provider. But I mean, we have essentially all the companies
Awesome.
that people are looking or recognize. So
wonderful. That's great to know. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you shared that with us because I didn't know that. So I'm sure a lot of people watching this right now didn't know it either. And so I know we can go on and on, Juan. I'll have to bring you back for part 2 and 3.
Yes, anytime.
But thank you so much. I really appreciate your time once again. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Remember, if you're looking for some insurance, call Juan here. He's a very great person to do business with. Someone, that you can trust. That'll take care of you and you'll be in good hands. Like a good neighbor, Juanito's there.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you all so much once again. Don't forget to follow me, subscribe, like my channel, share this for other people to get the same information. And we hope you enjoyed learning about Juan's life experiences and his success. And I hope you can take some of this information and apply it to your personal goals that you're working on towards this 2024. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Velia, for the opportunity to be here and share with your audience as well.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.